Hello, everybody. Okay. So, we have a lot to do tonight. We've got visitors and speakers and all kinds of exciting things. But the first thing we got to do is stand up and do the pledge. Who's the veterans in the room? Where are you? Yeah, go for it. Well, and thank you for your service. Okay, so welcome to everybody. Is there anybody here who's never been in Dems before? Oh, we've got some new people. Yay, welcome, welcome, welcome. And you're gonna get to meet the people at your table. And then at the beginning of the meeting, I know I always talk about the holiday for the month, and I thought you'd like this. There is some good news out there. We're making a little bit of progress. We don't know how long it'll take, but we're heading in the right direction. And then, unfortunately, we're headed in the wrong direction. There are over 100 anti-LGBTQ laws passed in the last 5 years, half of them this year. So we just had the Pride Month, but we're not showing a lot of pride, that's for sure.
But the Arkansas law was struck down.
That's right.
Yeah.
So at your table, there's somebody who has a white envelope and some blue flyers, and you're going to have a little discussion at your table. So take about 10 minutes, and if there are any questions, I'll circulate and see if I can help.
Hey, I'm that guy here at this table. How many of you right now making donors?
She's doing it, even as my wife's doing it, even as.
Please provide.
I'll do my.
But here I am, rocking my Target Pride dress. But it's Pride Month, and it's so cute. I'm gonna wear it all the time anyway. Okay, Louise asked me to do a brief overview of the Sustaining Donor Program, which is what we're going to be talking about at the table. Our dear Walt, who's here today, and right in front of me, came up with this idea a few years ago. The idea was we try and keep our membership dues low so that our club is accessible to everybody. I feel like I'm at the ball. There's an echo. But we know that we do have members who have the wherewithal to do a little bit more than just membership. So Walt came up with the idea of the Sustaining Donors Program. And it's for those people who are willing and able to give a little extra to the club. And we started off hoping we would make, a couple $1,000. This year already, we're over $7,000 in our donor funds. So thank you to all of you who are sustaining donors. Thank you to all of you who might consider being a sustaining donor. And thank you to all of you who pay your memberships, and that's okay. That's enough. We're glad you're here. We appreciate everything that you're able to give. And then Janet and Louise had this idea of how to make the Sustaining Donor Program work a little harder. So now you'll have your little discussion, and thank you so much.
Let's just go around.
Okay, so want to recognize one new member. We have a recently joined new member who's here tonight, Kristen Rowkey. Kristen, where are you? Tell us your name. Welcome, Kristen. She just joined. So the numbers that you're going to see up here later in the meeting are one short. Okay. And we have several important people here, one of whom is going to speak, so I'll hold that introduction. Joe Kerr, turn around and wave at folks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Joe is a member of our club, I just discovered, and he's also running for Congress. Okay, thank you. All right. So this is our agenda. It's a little different tonight because we've got the election going on, and we also have a visitor from the DPOC. And those of you who've been here before know that we take care of all of this business part of being a club all in one fell swoop. So the items that are checked on your agenda are on a consent list, and unless somebody wants to discuss one of those things, we vote on all of them at once. So one of the things that's on here is to close the nominations for pre-endorsement, because we hadn't done that at a prior meeting, even though we told people the deadline was passed. The good news is that we probably will need maybe one or two more representatives than the people that are on that list. And we have a mechanism in the club to do that by action of the board. And Deborah Sternick, who was our regional director when we passed that, said it was kosher, so we're going to do it if we need it. So if you're still interested in being a representative and you're not on the ballot, let me know or let Ann Owen know next when she gets back from her little trip. Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Do we have a motion? Okay, thank you, Heather. Second? Second by Eric. Okay. This is a vote of members who are in good standing, so that is, you're a Democrat, we love our Republican friends, there are some here, but you're not supposed to vote. And you're also, your dues are paid. Okay, so all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, good, we did it. Ta-da. This is the treasurer's report. Ken, do you want to say anything about it? Or just let people see it?
Basically, I think we're working with our sustained donations. We basically have that as one of our main fundraising, if you will, types of activities. So this is why this action today is very important for the club. So anything we can give is appreciated.
Thank you. Okay, and our numbers are going up, which is what we planned, because we're banking money in order to give donations to endorsed candidates after the endorsement process is completed next November. Some people it might be a little sooner, but at least by November, right, Nada? Right, okay. Okay, so we did the business. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do, and I should have brought, put a map in here of the assembly districts. I didn't do it. If you're voting and you're not sure of your assembly district, just go ahead and vote, put your name on there, and I'll sort it out later and cross off the ones that shouldn't have been voted for. So be sure you turn in your yellow ballots. If there's a ballot box, Heather, right up there on the counter. You can do it anytime during the meeting, okay? It's pretty, in some clubs, it's very contentious who gets elected. It's not that contentious in this club. Yeah.
What does it mean? Women vote for 8, men vote for 3.
The reason is that the DPOC, I mean, the Democratic Party of Yoko. Why is it by gender is the question. And the answer to that is that the California Democratic Party goes to great lengths to make sure that there's a balance in representation between men and women, okay, or actually between those who identify as women and others. Okay, so that's why we're following that convention.
But does that mean that men can only vote for men?
No,
Men can vote for anyone they want,
right,
and women can vote for anyone they want.
right,
Good.
okay. All right.
And there's
The ballot follows the conventions that were given, okay? And I describe it like, if you know Star Trek, okay, remember in Star Trek, there was this big cube that arrived at a planet and just ate the planet, and they only said one thing to them: comply. Okay, and that's how I feel about some of these rules that come down. You will comply, so we are complying, okay? All right. Any other questions about this? There is an important thing you should know, and that is that in our club, we do not do what's called binding our delegates, the people we elect. We say to them, go meet the candidates and make your best judgment. Okay, so I rode once to a meeting, a pre-endorsement meeting, and half the people in the car were supporting one candidate, and half the people in the car were supporting the other candidate, and we got along just fine. Okay, so we don't get into fights about this stuff. Okay, so we're really excited to welcome Otto Paceño, who is the chair of the Orange County Democratic Party, and a lot going on there. And Otto wants that we're really trying to think ahead about recruitment and training of candidates.
I look at this document and I know that things are running well because it's streamlined and it works and everybody's like moving in the same direction, and that's exactly what we need. So I just want to say thank you all. Thank you for all you're doing to protect democracy. Thank you for what you're doing to prepare for 2024. I know there's a lot to do, so I want to do a couple of things with you. I want to talk to you about the next few months, about what we're doing, about some of the events that are happening, and some of our focuses. And so if somebody's got to flag me when I have 2 minutes so I can then run.
If you just do, I think 5 and 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to say that we are doing the following. We're building our team, our paid team at the party. We're also building our volunteer team, moving all throughout the 34 cities in Orange County. And we're also raising our capacity to fundraise. And all these three, and obviously finding our candidates and recruiting more volunteers. That's the way that we're going to move into 2024. And so I'm excited to talk to you about some of these things that are happening. We're building a team. We are now in the process of hiring an organizing director. And because you're in the weeds of what we're doing, I want to share with you that we have a great person that we are voting on at the next central committee meeting. His name is Jeffrey Cardenas, and he's been on the ground leading campaigns, but leading campaigns in a way that we need so in Orange County. And that's making sure that we're hitting the doors, that we're talking to Democrats, that we're having those conversations with folks and moving them towards our Democratic candidates. So he's been running ground operations. He knows how to train folks on ballot pickup, okay? We can call it, or it could be controversial. I don't know if you've seen all the articles that I'm seeing about the training that the Republicans have, but we're gonna have a really strong ground game, stronger than we've had in past years. We've been opening folks' minds to knocking on doors, even despite the pandemic when we, took a little lull, but it's time to go back out there. And he was in the streets of Orange County here for Harley Ruda in 2018. So I'm very excited about his familiarity with Orange County. And if the Central Committee approves him, he's starting on July 1st. At which time we're gonna be all hands on deck, right? And this summer we have a few things planned out for activists at the Democratic Party and whoever else wants to join us to our clubs. And what we want to do is run some voter registration drives. I know that many of our clubs are focused on that already. I know that every time we get a chance, we've got to incorporate, if we're knocking on a door, if we're at a celebration, at a festival, out there, we've got to, in large groups of people, we have to be registering voters. That's really important for us. Sometimes in South County, it's a little difficult, right? Because everybody's got a team. Well, no, there's some people in the middle that we need, right? And this is the time. With our 3 congressional races up, it's really important. The 40th, the 45th, and the 47th. Those are for us to, 1, protect on the 47th, and 2, they're open for us to take. So we've got to really, really work it. So this voter registration drive is going to go along because there's 2 special elections happening in Orange County. One of them is a recall in Santana. There's some signatures that are being collected as we speak to recall 2 of our Democrats for passing rent control and for passing other progressive issues. So we're going to defend our Democrats at the doors in Santana, right? And then on October 3rd, we also have a special election for a living wage in the city of Anaheim. So we're going to use $25 for hotel workers, and we're moving that forward. And we're going to use these as opportunities for training. We've got to see, we have to measure where we are in our strength, right? So we're going to use those as opportunities to knock on doors and move things forward, okay? I also want to say that, those congressional seats is, while they're tough, and I know we have one of the candidates here for 40th. I know folks will tell you Dr. Mahmoud gave it a really good run, and we all worked really hard. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that district. So figuring out how we can go get some voter registrations in Joe and Allison's district is going to be really crucial for us. If we want to turn that around this cycle, if we want to keep pushing the 45th to turn around this cycle. The 45th has Little Saigon in it. And so it's a very difficult, how many of you know how difficult Little Saigon has been? Well, anybody don't know. Yeah. Well, it's very, very difficult with the Vietnamese community. They really have believed for some reason that Democrats are communists, right? And because of what they've lived in their country, while coming here, it's been very difficult. The older generation is struggling, and we've got to get in front of them. We've got to get in front of them and tell them that the democratic values are the values that uplift them living in this country and the things that are important to immigrants more than any other group might, right? So we're moving forward in that area. I want to talk a little bit about candidate recruitment because I know that you're all, as a club, going to be focused on that, okay? We have many races that are open, over 150 races, whether they're open because, there's no incumbent or whether they're going to be on the ballot. And so throughout Orange County, we have over 150, maybe 180. We're still working up the numbers on that. And so we are preparing a document as we speak that we'll share with the club, and we'll put Louise and everybody else to work to make sure that we're finding a candidate that feels that really embodies our values, okay? And we're going to do that in all 34 cities. And so that, document, we're going to ask everybody to help, because I got to tell you something. Many moons ago, when I was an organizer, in Anaheim, we had passed district elections in Anaheim. And I was waiting for the Democratic Party to find me candidates. And I kept waiting, and the candidates never came. Nobody told me that it was my job to find those candidates. And the whole group was like, okay, well, wait, and I couldn't find anybody. The Republicans got in because we didn't have anybody. But nobody told me that it was my job to find someone that speaks my values, that can, you know, be put in the ballot so our voters have a chance. So I'm telling you, in case, I'm sure Louise told you, right? I'm sure your folks have told you, but it's your job to help us as activists, as leaders of the Democratic Party, to help us find like-minded individuals. And you may say, hey, that person really, you know, resonates with me. Where do they live? Make sure you're connecting, you know, leadership with the party, because, you know, we may have somebody in another part of the county that you may know and encounter. So that list is coming. And, you know, Louise just talked about organization and moving processes forward. Processes hard for me. I like being on the ground, recruiting people and moving things forward, but they're important for democracy, right? So this time around, we're trying to streamline our process, our endorsement process, right? Both the primary and the general. So we'll have a very, very comprehensive memo laid out for Louise and the group to take a look at. So we're not running the last minute to get people moving forward. So we need candidates and then people to interview the candidates and get them endorsed. So we'll get that all going by the end of the year. We'll have dates and what timelines we'll have for all of you. So that's all, you know, being prepared as we speak. But I think the biggest thing, the great thing is finding candidates that think like us, but really, can they get elected? That's the biggest question for us. Can they put together a campaign that will get folks across the finish line? And that's what we're here for as a democratic community. We have consultants, we have party leaders, we have activists, and what we want to do is make sure that they have all the tools. So they're going in there in a very strong and sound way into getting on that ballot. So fundraising, knocking on doors, making sure that the messaging is strong. And so we will put all these candidates with people, like-minded individuals that are going to get them to do that. So we've already started some trainings, and I'm really proud to say that at the convention, at the state convention we had, we, you know, statewide, they invited a whole bunch of candidates. Orange County had the largest contingency of candidates who attended that training. So out of 45, we have 50 out there. You know, we're getting a little bit, you know, a little ahead there. We have Emerge, which is a training organization to train women to run. And they're coming. They were so impressed with us that they want to do a training here in Orange County. So we're going to reach out to folks to get trained. And in addition, in the month of July, mid-July, ongoing, we're going to be meeting with candidates, first-time candidates. And if you have been elected and you want to meet with us, we're happy to. We want to fine-tune people's plans. We want to look at how they're raising funds. We want to tweak everything that's happening with their campaign and be meeting with them on a monthly basis. So I'm really excited about that training and developing the future folks that are gonna legislate on our behalf. And mostly, I gotta say, the congressional folks and the state legislature and the state Senate folks, they've got high-end consultants that give them all that. But the school board, that's so crucial. They don't have that.
We don't.
Right? They, you know, city council folks, that where the rubber meets the road, which is in the local level, we don't have that. So we're going to provide that for folks. They're not going to go by themselves. We're going to join in. We're going to join them. The Democratic Party, we're going to put our name behind them after the process. We're going to make sure that we are, you know, fierce about building themselves so they can get elected. And lastly, on the fundraising capacity, I just want to say that we have a great event with Attorney General Rob Bonta that we're holding on July 11th at Supervisor Sarmiento's home. We're already, we $9,000 to go in this fundraiser, but that will help us build towards 2024 and building our team. I really want to thank you for all you're doing. I'm going to give the mic back so we can actually do work. But I just want to say thank you for everything you will do moving forward, because it's really going to take us stretching ourselves and moving forward so we can beat back DeSantis or Trump or whoever the. So thank you.
I have a question. Does the Orange County Committee, work with the neighboring counties, specifically for our congressional districts?
Yes, where they go across the boundaries.
Exactly.
Yes, they do. Okay, moving on, folks, so that we get to our main speaker. Are you? Put your hands up. I know.
Okay, well, to dovetail right off of that about voter registration, we're going back to the 4th of July Mission Viejo Street Fair. And one of the things we're going to do is voter registration to the extent that we can, and even let people know they can go online. This kind of does get people ginned up to register. And of course, we need more Democrats in Mission Viejo. We're still red, even though Orange County is blue. And with the redistricting, our congressional district is R+3. So they have a 3% advantage over us. So we really need to register voters. We want to recruit members. There's a lot of hot button issues out there now. And I think people might want to come up and talk.
How many people
about
do you need? For slots.
4.
She has 4 slots that need to be filled, so we can staff.
And we want to also put Nancy Watkin is running for Board of Supervisors, so we want to promote our candidates, any that we have, Board of Education that we have. You guys have done a great job. We had 24 slots and there's only 4 left. We need 2 for the 5 to 7 time slot and 2 for the 7 to 9 time slot. 7 to 9 is takedown. So we'll probably start taking down around 8 o'clock, get stuff out of there. And then there'll be space for people to come in with chairs and watch the fireworks. So you can go to our website, or if you want to see me, but also on our website, I put in an additional slot. It's like 9 to 9. If you want to sign up as an alternate, or if there's a time slot you want to work, just fill in there and I'll get in touch with you and we can work it out. So hope to see you guys there. It's a fun event.
Thank you. Okay. What? Yeah, you want to talk about, we have these community focus groups for each city. And some of the focus groups are more busy than others. I think right now Lake Forest and Mission Viejo are the busiest. And of course, we've been very busy in Mission Viejo and won 1 seat. And we'll next time, there's no election this year and next year, but then in 2 years there will be.
Yeah, so how many of you sitting out here live in Mission Viejo? All right, and how many of you am I gonna see at the Housing Element Workshop on Thursday at 3 in the Rotary Center? And how many of you am I gonna see at the Mission Viejo City Council meeting on Tuesday, June 27th? That will probably be one, if not the most important city council meeting of the year that you can attend. There are 2 major agenda items. The budget for 2023-25 is on there. You will be paying for the core vision plan unless you come and find out how the city council plans to spend your money. So even if you don't have an opinion yet, it is worth going or at least listening to online to understand what the city council is proposing. Those 5 people have a lot of power over your day-to-day life in Mission Viejo. The other thing that's on that agenda on the 27th is the approval of the revised housing element. So for those of you who feel passionate about providing housing for affordable housing, workforce housing, so that the teachers, the firemen, the whoever, the nurses, the healthcare workers who take care of your mom and dad when they're sick, who take care of us when we're sick, so that they can afford to live in Mission Viejo. We need to provide more housing. And we need to have citizen advocates who say, I want more housing. I don't care about traffic. We are traffic. We can manage traffic. We want people to live in Mission Viejo. Factoid, 43% of the Mission Viejo city budget comes from property taxes. About 26% comes from sales tax. The city council is hyper-focused on sales tax income. They fail to mention that anytime someone buys a new house in Mission Viejo, their revenue goes up. The more houses we sell in Mission Viejo, the more property taxes they collect. The more houses we build, the more houses we sell. So those are both really important meetings. After that, the city council kind of goes on hiatus for the summer. And then coming up in September, there will be a big push to get voters to agree to, you don't even get the chance to approve, because I think they're going to try to do another lease revenue bond, to at least be aware of what is going on with the core vision plan, which is that whole area around Steinmart. So please let me see you Thursday at the Housing Element Workshop, and let me see you on Tuesday at the City Council meeting. Thank you.
Question, that would pertain to all of the cities, because they're all doing that housing element.
Yes,
And, they're all, locating different places where they would want to do this. Now, if they select a place, any city, that is currently a retail area, it might even be a dining retail area, so let's say it's a retail area. And I have a store that's in that retail area, and I've had it there for 30 years, or maybe 5 years, whatever. And they agree to take that area where I have my retail store. Is there compensation for me to move and find a new place, or do you know how that's working? Because
Well, let me tell you this first. First of all, you have to assume that there is a developer who sees an opportunity in that shopping center. So just the fact that it's been rezoned and there is a potential for development doesn't necessarily mean that it will be
but
developed.
that's not my question.
I understand that.
The question is, if my area is selected,
That's a good question, but I just was on a Zoom this afternoon. Many of these developers are doing what they call mixed use development, which means they have a combination of retail and housing. My assumption is that that is probably the most attractive option for many of these, but it's a good question, and I will see if I can find out a definitive answer. I suspect it differs project by project.
okay, because I think
and
that's.
if the only person in the room is Walt and Mike and Kathy, that's not gonna be a big impression on the people sitting up at the dais. If the room is flooded with residents asking questions and clapping at the right time, it makes a big difference, a huge difference. I just heard something that curled my hair, and I'll let my friend here tell you quickly what it is.
Hi, I'm Josh Vecchiani. I was appointed city commissioner for the second term by Cynthia Basquith. I will tell you, I've never been in any building in our city that I've been with a room full of like-minded people. nice to walk in and be wearing blue. So I wanted to share that I just got out of a city commissioner meeting. A few things I want to share with you. Sunday, for the first time, Mission Viejo, we do have, and Cindy Vasquez organized it. We're having, a pride picnic at Flojo Park. So I've lived in Mission Viejo for 55 years. My parents moved here from New York. My brother and I said, and where in God's name did you move us? Because there was nothing here. So for all these years, I've been reaching, here's my big thing. For all these years, I've talked about honoring Gay Pride Month. It was shut down. But there's only a handful of us blue that are on city council and commission too. But to tell you something that came up for me right before commissioner meeting, if you've noticed in our library, if any of you have gone, there is a display of Pride books. There's an adult display right when you walk in, and then there's one in the kids section. And of course, people have emailed and want it removed, like it was last year. And it's still up. Some gentleman actually checked out all the books in the children's section of the Pride to get them off the shelves. And so, yeah, and so this is what's going on, but they're the squeaky wheel. They're the ones that are complaining. They're the ones who are going, I don't want those books. And like I said in our library, my atheist friends don't go in the library and ask to remove the Bibles. So why are we going in and we're doing that? Some of the hands get tied in the library, but city council has to hear from us because they don't hear as much from us. Few of us do talk, but they don't hear from us. So like Tuesday for the city council meeting, go there. It's 3 minutes you get to talk.
Tell them hands off our books.
Yeah.
Hands off our books.
And remember, it is, it is on TV. And so you get it on the record. Hands off our books. What is this project you're doing? It's Gay Pride Month. What has Mission Viejo done for Gay Pride Month? Just put it out there.
Yeah. Are you gonna wait until they pile them all up in the parking lot and burn them?
Yeah, well, they would like to do that, but we know that's what they would like to do. So, we are making baby steps, so those of us who are trying to make those baby steps. So anyway, thank you, and thank you so much.
Okay, we gotta deal with topics that are hot off the press, I gotta tell you, in the 1980s, I did a lot of research on book banning in public schools. Same thing's happening again. Can't believe it. Anyway, so our membership grew, which is good. So if you're a new member tonight, thank you very much. And if you haven't joined, because there's nowhere else around here where you're gonna find what you find here. Okay, if you've donated tonight, thank you very much. For July, we're doing back to school donations for Family Forward. And I saw Cindy, she'll get this up on the Facebook and we'll get it out in the newsletter. We're collecting things for Families Forward for back to school packages for families in need. So there's the list. And Marty has a whole series of things to talk to us about. Yeah. So you want to stand over here and I'll push this down? Sure. All right. First of all, last call, if you want to be part of our ticket thing. We don't know what to call it because we're not allowed. Our opportunity drawing. So raise your hand and one of our lovely sales ladies will come and take care of it. Okay, let me see. Okay, we have 77 sustaining donors as of the middle of May. Hopefully we've got a whole lot more now. And we've raised, as of the middle of May, $7,394 for the sustaining donor program. So yay, all of you are sustaining donors. And I gotta leak a little information. We've got an incredible sustaining donor thank you party coming up in September. I'm not allowed allowed to tell you yet what it is, but it's gonna be a field trip and you're gonna have so much fun. So that's another perk of being a sustaining donor. Now, who's heard of the McCain-Feingold bill? Raise your hand if you've heard of the McCain-Feingold bill. Okay, I'm disappointed that not more people have, but that's part of the, I'm old and I remember this. We are so lucky to have Russ Feingold of McCain-Feingold coming to speak at our meeting in July. And by the way, on the bottom of your agenda, it says that our next meeting is on July 25th. You'll miss it. It's the 18th. So please take out your pens right now and change it on your agenda so that you don't take this. But we want you here on the 18th. Now, we are doing a VIP reception before the meeting, which means you're gonna come and we're gonna have a little bit of food, a little nosh, and you're gonna get to actually meet up close and personal Russ Feingold, former senator from the state of Wisconsin, who worked with John McCain on the McCain-Feingold. So we are thrilled. Now, Louise was nice enough to put a QR code. So right now with your little phone, you could just hit the QR code and sign up and be part of our extravaganza.
If you want to use the QR code, you open the camera on your phone and you point it at the code. And it will take you automatically to the place where you do the RSVP and put the money in. It's automatic and it uses the camera on your phone.
Now, we do have early bird registration from now until when? July 7th. After July 7th, it's gonna cost you $50 to come. So I would suggest that you do it sooner rather than later. We would love to see you, and Russ Feingold would love to see you, and so we hope you'll all come to that. And let's see. Right after that, we're gonna have an ice cream social. It'll be our 3rd annual ice cream social. And we have a great time. Bring your kids, your grandkids, your in-laws. It'll be right out here. And big kids, $20, actual kids, $10. And it'll be all you can eat ice cream with toppings and all that stuff. And lemonade and water. And so that on your calendar. And then we had, in the beginning of the year, we had a survey. And some people mentioned that they come right from work or they, we've got stuff going on and they don't get to eat. So they suggested that we offer pizza at a meeting. So in July, not July, in August, we're gonna give it a shot. So it's not up there yet. It'll be $7 for pizza and a soft drink. And we'll put it on the website so you can order it in advance so we'll know how many pizzas to have. We don't want to order 20 if we only need 10, but we don't want to order 10 if we're going to need 20. So do us a favor and sign up for that. It'll be up on the website after all this other stuff is over. I think that's all for me.
Judy, you're next.
Wait, we need to do our little.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Gotta do our
No,
opportunity drawing.
Money takes priority.
Yep. We're here to socialize and make money. Oh, okay, we can do it at the end. You want to do it at the
The
end?
problem is, we don't know how long. So,
Okay, let's do it now.
ready. Are we ready?
Getting close.
I'm gonna have one more speaker, then we'll.
Do one more.
All right.
One more.
Judy, come on up.
She's coming around the line.
Okay, I need a couple of assistants.
You need people to collect ballots.
No, they'll take care of it. You can help them.
No, I offered to help. Are you
Sit over there.
announced? Anyone?
Okay, can I have everyone?
I have a question for you all. How many of you have voted? Many of you have voted in every single presidential election that you were eligible to vote in. Okay. How many of you voted in every primary and presidential election? All right. good for you. And there was a long time in my life when I thought that I was doing enough. I voted in every election. If there was a candidate I really liked, I donated to his campaign. But 2016 changed my way of thinking. And I realized that sitting on the sideline and voting and donating wasn't enough. That if we are going to save our democracy, we need to be louder. We need to be shout it loud and shout it proud. We are Democrats, and we need to get over this thing that we have to be the polite people, the civil people. I'm not saying that we need to be rude, but we need to make some noise out there. Because the other side, they're making a lot of noise. So we need to combat that. And this quote really, or this slide, really resonated with me. Staying silent in times of injustice is privilege. The people who are being affected by what's going on need our voice. They need us to do something. And that's what the field team does. So I am the director of the field team, and that means we are responsible for voter contact. And that voter contact can is packaged in many different ways. We text people, we phone call people, we send postcards to people, and most important, we knock on doors. And what we need to do, what the field team, this field team has been concentrating on, is getting Democrats out to vote. And the elections in Mission Viejo for City Council, if the Democrats had turned out and voted, we would have more than one Democrat on that city council. So, come on, guys, we need to get with it. So, what the field team has been doing is basically strategizing, as Ada is doing at the county, and we're working on messaging. We're working on meet and greets. We're working on where we're going to strategically concentrate our efforts. And when we figure that out, which is all coming into place, I will be talking to you and letting you know about things that you can do. The primary is in March. That's 9 months away. That may seem like a lot of time, but come January, we need to really get our act in gear and get out there and get people to vote. So this leaflet has been passed out. That's one of the things that the field team worked on is the messaging. And I know for some people, that picture is really disturbing. Every time I see that picture, I get goosebumps because I remember how I felt when I walked into the living room and looked at the TV and saw what was happening. We want people to have a visceral response because our democracy is still being threatened. So anyway, thank you everybody for all your support. We appreciate it.
Okay, I just want to add to what Judy said, and that is that we now have 1,000 of these flyers that we're gonna, Barbara, make available for you to pass out at the Mission Viejo Street Fair. And if there are other events that you're going to and you want to take them, or you have a couple neighbors you want to stop by and talk with, it is up in your face, but you know what? I don't want to be standing around here 5 years from now when this whole democracy comes crashing around our ears and we didn't do everything we could do. So I've been in touch again with David Pepper, who was one of our speakers, and I sent him this flyer and his response was awesome, awesome. Okay, you know, we have to stand up for it. Barbara,
Police, as an elected official, I'd like to say that the field team is so important. They are so important and they made a difference in the elections and they're walking and they're knocking and they're, whatever they do, they are amazing. And I can personally say thank you for everything they do, but we all need to know it's important to get behind them and help.
thank you. Okay, we're gonna do our fun stuff.
Okay. We're part of, we're obviously, we're part of the fundraising team. Oh, I'm going over here, because I'll be echoing, thank you. We're part of the fundraising team. This is our little opportunity drawing that we have. This is a very monumental night. It's kind of ironic that we're talking about democracy because a few years ago, we were gifted with several of our little Lady Liberties, as you see her.
There were 100 of them.
There were a lot. I don't know if there was 100, but there was maybe 50. And we've used them. They were given to us. We've used them in baskets. You guys, some of have bought some of them. Probably everybody on my field team, our fundraising team has them in their home. And I want my fundraising team to pay attention here. You guys, this is the last one. So I just have to say this is loud. Ironic though, this Lady Liberty, we don't want to lose her, right? So let's remember. Okay, so we got some, I made a special thing, so this is one of our raffles tonight. So, but first we'll do the big one, and then we'll do the bigger one, right? Okay, ready?
Did you take us out?
All right, here we go. Okay, I'm getting cataract surgery in a month, so I don't know if I can see it. I'm so thrilled. 714-292. 292. 714-292.
Must be present to win.
Oh, come on. 714-292? Nobody? Somebody have them? No, no? How the heck did that happen? I'm still looking over here. 714-292. Two nine two. No, well, that's weird. Okay, we're gonna try again. I don't know how that ends, but sometimes extras get thrown in there. All right, we'll try it again. I know, maybe somebody left, yeah. Okay, hang on. 714-091. 091. 714-091.
Nobody wants it.
Are we in the wrong meeting? 091.
Last one, Steve, take it.
Going once. All right, going once, going twice. Try it again. Somebody's gotta be in here. No? Okay. Oh, this is a new number. 250-006. 250-006. Everybody, all right. Okay. So that's the 4th of July basket. It's got a new American flag and all kinds of fun things on there. So I want everyone, before we leave her, I would like everyone to have a moment of silence and take into consideration what will happen if we lose Lady Liberty and she's going out tonight. Here we go. Hang on. 714-187. 714-187.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. We can't thank you enough.
Okay, Herb sent me the information that July is gonna be Russ Feingold as our speaker. And in August, it's Megan Yo Schneider. Schneider. Okay, he's the president of the Metropolitan Water District of Orange County, very prestigious organization. And she's going to be here to talk about water and water systems. You know, and I know we're all worried about what's going to happen if we turn on the tap and nothing comes out. So that's going to be really exciting. And who is introducing our speaker? Please come up.
And I'm very pleased to, present Craciun, Orange County, Policy Manager for Climate Action Campaign. And she's a perfect person to come and talk to this group because we've already got focus groups monitoring what City Council is doing. And she's going to give us more, information and how we can become involved and, basically let us know what's happening with building electrification, community choice energy, and all these things have been changing very rapidly. And I hope everybody signs up to the Climate Action Committee because I just got an announcement today about contacting the governor on an issue, and they keep us informed. So welcome.
Thank you all. I just want to, yes, thank you for the nice introduction. Thank you all for being here. So important to build political power, and we don't get anything done without people on the ground and people going to council meetings. So I'm going to give a big shout out to your city team and whoever it is that's making that happen and everyone on the city team. Because if we're going to fight the climate crisis in Orange County, that means engaging on the local level. So the United Nations says that climate change is, most climate pollution is caused by cities, more than 70% of it. And we find ourselves here in this deciding decade, the final decade, when we can make a difference and avoid those worst of the worst catastrophic impacts from climate change. So we have actually not even a full decade left. We have until about 2030 to radically reduce emissions. And so, yeah, so that's why I'm here. So yes, thank you for having me again. I want to, in terms of what I'm going to talk about, the purpose of my discussion is to give you a concrete sense of the things that you can do as individuals and more importantly, perhaps as an organization to bring climate action to your communities. I'm also going to give you a bit of an update on where we are on climate policy in the county, which is not great. You may not be surprised to hear. And then I'm going to give you, I got a request to talk about a sort of hot topic, which is the Orange County Power Authority. So we'll talk about that. But first a bit about Climate Action Campaign, my organization. So we are a nonprofit climate policy watchdog. And our mission is to stop the climate crisis through effective and equitable policy action. And so this is, you're looking at here, this is an article from the LA Times Daily Pilot last year after we had a big win in several Orange County cities. And so we work on policy that meets the scale of the climate crisis. A lot of times you think about climate change and you think about things that are far away. You might think about polar bears, and it might seem very remote. But in fact, climate change is happening all around us. It's caused by human activity, and we have the most power to impact what's causing climate change in our communities, in our cities, through engaging in the local democratic process. So that's why I'm so glad to be here. And so we work on organizing activists, but more so organizing organizations to match the power of the fossil fuel industry and the politicians that enable the fossil fuel industry. And you might think, oh, the fossil fuel industry, again, that's something that's very far away. No, the fossil fuel industry is very much, there's an army, a small army of on-the-ground lobbyists that work for a company called SoCalGas, which you might get a bill from every month if you live north of Alicia. If you live south of Alicia Parkway, you probably get a bill from a company called San Diego Gas and Electric. And so they have a huge vested interest and put a lot of money into perpetuating our use of fossil fuels right here on the ground in Orange County. And then, of course, we have oil companies and auto companies, too, and other vested corporate interests that are always doing everything they can to continue sort of business as usual, status quo, which is how, not a path to prosperity, shall we say. So, so we get organizations together to push back against those power structures. And these are our 5 fights, our policy areas that we engage in. We have bikeable, walkable neighborhoods, which is to answer that that concern that I heard earlier in regards to the land use decision or the housing element update that's put in Mission Viejo. Traffic does not have to be a thing. Like, there are many places in the world, think of Paris, think of other, great cities, New York, where we just build cities for humans instead of for cars. And so then we don't have traffic, we just have people moving about, if we do it right. And so these are policies that are just available to us. They're available to your city council members through things like complete streets policies and Vision Zero policies. So these are just things that those 5 people that are representing you at your city can adopt that make your life better. And also to the question of like business and being good for business, it turns out like cars don't spend money and they take up a huge amount of space, and parking lots don't spend money, but people spend money. So if we can make our cities bikeable and walkable, then we can get people into businesses and we can do better economically as well. World-class transit, which is a disaster in Orange County. There's a little bit happening. For the most part, it's very sad state where they're just starting to work on transit issues a bit. 100% clean energy is something we work on a lot in Orange County through community choice energy, which I'll talk about. Resiliency, which is things like shade trees, making sure people have access to air conditioning, and then all electric homes. So these are our 5 sites. All electric homes being like gas, ending gas use in buildings. So, and we do all of this through a lens of equity and justice, being mindful of the fact that that these systems have always required certain people and places to be sacrificed, the fossil fuel economy, in order for other, certain individuals and corporations to profit, right? And so we seek to bring an end to those systems of oppression. And so, just another word about local change before we move on. I like to tell people that, of course, we know that hopefully greenhouse gases cause climate change. Greenhouse gases are the things that come from burning fossil fuels. And that cities cause greenhouse gases, we covered that. And most importantly, that you can change your city. And you live in a city, most likely, unless you live in an unincorporated area, in which case the Board of Supervisors is your city council. But just because most people never show up, you have tremendous power to make change if you choose to. So I would really encourage everyone, especially if you care about climate change, to get involved in your city action committee, because you actually don't even have a city council. What you have is a climate council, because everything that body does all day long, when they meet every other Tuesday or whenever it is climate policy, land use, transportation, energy, waste, everything they do is climate policy. And so that's where it's at, and that's where we work. So, so we are scaling and replicating a lot of success that we've had in Orange County. We got started in 2015 when our founder wrote a really groundbreaking climate action plan for the city of San Diego. But then she was working in the mayor's office and she looked around and saw that this climate action plan was never going to get adopted with the state of affairs on the ground in San Diego, with the community and engagement the way it was. So she left the mayor's office to found Climate Action Campaign to facilitate the adoption of this climate action plan, which was the first one in the United States for a big city to have a 100% clean energy by 2035 goal. And that has since been replicated at the state and national level. And so this is the kind of thing that we can do with the local level, because local governments are also little laboratories of policy and things that we can then, grow and expand elsewhere. So something that we've done for 5 years down in San Diego is this climate action plan report card. What is the climate action plan? It's a whole comprehensive suite of policies that address all the emissions in a city. So from all those sources, from transportation, from buildings, waste, energy production, all sources. It's a comprehensive set of policies, and it can be legally binding, which is very exciting, because if it's used for mitigation of, say, a housing element or other general plan, the city can be bound to it, which is fantastic. And so that's a big scale change and the kind of thing that we like to see. And so this year in January, we did our first report card for climate action plans in Orange County. Does anyone want to guess how many climate action plans have been adopted by cities in Orange County? You're 0,
10.
1, 10. The over, it's 6. 6 climate action plans that have been adopted in Orange County. None of them in Canyon Dam cities, notably. So yeah, we have La Habra, Fullerton, Santa Ana, Huntington Beach, Laguna Beach, and San Clemente. Isn't that crazy? 2017. It was a total sleeper when we sent an email to all the cities saying, we're doing our report card, please send us all of your climate action plans. They didn't even respond to us, and they didn't even seem to be aware that they had one. But they had adopted one in 2017, and it turned out to be the best one in the county, which is sad. They all failed. None of them had been implemented fully. they're all inadequate. And now, I have to say in contrast, this does not have to be the case. In San Diego, we have A+ climate action plans. And we have climate action plans that are being implemented, and by every city in San Diego County except one. Every city. And so we have 34 cities in Orange County. And if you include the county, we have 35 municipalities. So that gives us, 17.65%. Very sad statistic. So it's all upside. We only have upward to go, right? So these are our scores. You can see all of them failing. Huntington Beach, all of them tragic. And the most recent one, Huntington Beach, 2017. Fullerton, I think, was adopted in 2012, a full 11 years before we issued the report card this year. Santana was 2015. So yeah, really, really sad picture, especially because there's so much that can be done. So, but we elevate these issues and we provide transparency to them, and we provide a tool like the CAP report card, which is available on our website. If you missed that, it's at the top there. If you go to climateactioncampaign.org and then Orange County Report Card, or just scroll down over there, as you see, you can find it, and you can just email your city council and say, I'm hearing that we're not having a climate action plan. What are you doing about that? When are we going to get a climate action plan? It is budget season. If I weren't here tonight, I would have been at a couple of council meetings asking them to put money in their budget to fund the climate action plan. So that's something that you can do. So I want to talk about this one particular policy area in a climate action plan, which ties into the hot topic that I mentioned, the Orange County Power Authority, which is community choice energy, which addresses emissions or climate pollution from energy generation in a city, which is a major source of emissions. Around a third of the emissions in your city typically. So most people, you walk around your day and never know really where your electricity comes from. So I thought, just sort of to tee up the issue, the problem of why we need community choice energy, which I'll get to kind of what it is in a minute. But we have electricity, right? It's coming out of all these appliances, it powers our phones and whatnot. Where does it come from? Well, if you're using an investor-owned utility like SoCal Edison or SDG&E, it's mostly fossil fuel based. And actually, you would never know unless you know to go and look at the California Energy Commission website, where they publish what's like kind of the nutrition label for energy sources. You can look it up. It's called this power content label. And there you can see, and it's much too small here, I'm sure you can't see, but basically what they're providing is the legal minimum. There's the very minimum of what's required by law, which is 33.6%. This was in 2021. Now it's like 38.5% renewable, the balance of it being mostly fossil fuel based. So this is the kind of emission source that we can address with a policy with community choice energy. And that's why Climate Action Campaign worked for 5 years to build the community will to bring community choice energy to Orange County. Community choice energy programs buy 10 times more renewables than investor-owned utilities. The big bar in the middle is community choice energy programs. And then the little bar here on the left is investor-owned utilities, SoCal Edison, SDG&E, and then there's another type of energy provider that I won't talk about. This is necessary. You need community choice energy to provide competition to these investor-owned utilities because our bills are going up. This is SoCal Edison bills. This is based on projections that they provided to the California Public Utilities Commission in 2021 about regarding rates and the future of rates. So basically, rates for SoCal Edison customers have risen 45% from 2016 to 2021, 45%. So if you feel like your electric bill has gone up, you are not imagining it. It absolutely has. And they plan to raise rates another 45% between now and 2030. It's just, and the curve, I had other graphs, but I didn't think I had time to include them. It shows their revenue and the rate increases match closely. They just are they want money, and so they charge more money, and they can because they have so much power at the state level and with the CPUC. So we need community choice energy as a, an answer to that. So what is community choice energy? It's a program that was established by state law in 2002 in response to the, the energy crisis of the 2000s that enabled communities to get together and take over the buying part of the electricity. And it's been a huge success in the state. There are now 25 of these programs up and down the state, as you can see. Some of them are 13 years old now and are bringing choice to electricity customers and much more clean energy. And it's our only path to 100% clean energy in California. There's no other way to get it. SoCal Edison says they're going to get us 100% clean energy by 2045, which is of course much too late to meet our climate goals. You know, I said 2030, we need 2030 is when we need to really be slashing emissions by. So it's not going to get it done. So here's how it works. So the community choice energy company or the program buys the electricity, and then the investor-owned utility delivers it. It goes over all the same poles and wires, and they do the billing, and then the customer just experiences clean energy. You don't have to have solar on your rooftop. You can just get clean energy without all of the sort of the fuss. And so it's very important, and perhaps most importantly, it provides a huge amount of local funding for energy programs, things that we're going to need to address the climate crisis. Things like making sure people have access to efficient cooling appliances, heat pumps is what they're called. So there are a lot of people in Orange County who still don't have air conditioning. You may remember that heat wave that we had last year. It lasted, maybe a week. In the future, we're going to have heat waves like that last for months at a time. And so people are very much, extreme heat is the #1 killer of humans. And so especially vulnerable, populations, older folks. So we really need people to have access to technology like this. It's going to be a matter of life and death. And so that's why we work so hard to bring community choice energy to Orange County, and why we've been saying, even though the Orange County Power Authority, our first community choice energy program in Orange County, has been having a lot of problems in the last couple of years, but we've been saying, this is a blog I wrote last year, the OC Power Authority must succeed. Even with all of its warts and issues, we've got to fix this. This thing's a fixer. So the good news is we have been having some success fixing it. And so I wanted to go into that. You may have seen, has anyone seen anything about the OC Power Authority in the news ever? Yeah. Okay, good. It's not as many as I would have suspected, but yeah, Voice of OC has been covering it. It's been hard to watch, but basically the forces of darkness took over the OC Power Authority is what happened. And they basically, sort of the Orange County Old Boy Club decided they wanted to use it as a favor-making machine, sort of a vehicle for their corruption, to give contracts to their cronies, to employ people who were not qualified for these, energy-related positions, but give them a sweet gig inside the agency, so they could do things like, for example, work on the Michelle Steele campaign. There was this one OCPA employee was brought in, had been the district director for Michelle Steele, and then was brought in to work at OCPA and ran Michelle Steele's, Republican congresswoman, ran the campaign while he was getting paid by the OC Power Authority. So this is the kind of thing that we really, needed to address, because these sorts of uses of an agency like this do not serve the public. We need the agency to serve the public's interest and provide clean energy and do it transparently. And so, as fortunately, we had some good council members take seats on the board in January from folks who won in the election last year, including Kathleen Traceder, an Irvine council member who I think has come here and spoken before. And then Tammy Kim from Irvine as well. And so they have been making important reforms. And unfortunately, as that has happened, those sort of the OC Old Boy network that I mentioned, they're not too keen on it. They're like, if this thing doesn't serve me, then who needs it? We don't want it. Let's blow it up. And so it was pretty surprising, or maybe not at all, that the Huntington Beach mayor, Tony Strickland, who's heard of Huntington Beach Mayor Tony Strickland? Yeah. So this sort of MAGA majority took hold in Huntington Beach last year. And so led by Tony Strickland. And so he was very open about it in his Voice of OC article a few weeks ago, where he just explained that his city would make more money if they just, got rid of OCPA. The dissolution of the whole organization would make it a lot easier for my citizens in Huntington Beach. They can sell off those contracts and actually have excess revenue come back to the city, which would be great for them because they're running up their litigation bills with all their terrible decisions going into the, litigation with the city. So then they would have more money to pay off all those debts, I guess. but that doesn't serve the public. That's not gonna provide us with funding for energy programs. It's not gonna bring us clean energy. That's not gonna meet our climate goals. So that's a hard no. And so fortunately now the balance of power on the board is such that we have been able to get community-centered decision-making happening and important reforms being made. So, so we are going to start recommending in the next couple months here that cities start to join. And, so I've not talked about anything like this. I haven't used these slides in, I don't know, it's been well over a year because it's like, this thing is a disaster. Who would ever think about joining this thing? But we need it to survive because it's very important for our climate goals. And it's a relatively easy sell to a city council, you know, if all things are going well, because it's a source of revenue for a city and they don't have to do a lot of work. They just sign up and then all of a sudden everyone can have 100% clean energy. So these are some of the improvements that we've seen. There was a state audit, the state auditor's office audited OCPA. There was the OC grand jury report. There's the County of Orange audit. There's been a number of audits. And so the good news is OCPA has been making these reforms that have been called for in all of these audits. So regarding governance issues, transparency, staffing, practices, procurement, and disbursement, all of these things are getting cleaned up. And so I just wanted to end with some to-dos because I love a good to-do list. So things that you can do as a club, as an individual, you can ask your city for a climate action plan and where the money is for it in their budget. You can ask them to join OCPA, maybe wait a couple months on that. And then lather, rinse, and repeat. As you know, anything that, you know, is worth doing you got to try it again and again and again. You got to stick with it. We persist, right? And I also want to say, I'm happy to take questions too, but I wanted to consider, like, maybe you guys should change your meeting days. I just saw that Lake Forest, you guys are conflicting with the Lake Forest Council meeting today. I'm sure you know that. I just have to put a word in because, like, yeah, you cannot be conflicting with your council meeting. My 2 cents.
No matter where we have enough cities that no matter where we go, we can put something.
Well, I pulled all the meeting schedules for all the cities in your footprint, and so you should meet on that Monday. Yes, I have the, yeah.
We have a contract.
Yeah, so Mondays or Wednesdays would be better for you. We can talk about it later, but I'm happy to take any questions. I hope that was helpful. Yes.
What happens when Southern California Edison and San Diego Gas and Electric have huge public affairs departments that fund a lot of our candidates in the city? When we go to our city and we ask for them to join OCPA, what should we expect?
So a bit of good news is that the question was, what are the implications for local candidates who get funding from SoCal Edison and SDG&E if activists support community choice energy? And so the good news is that investor-owned utilities are prohibited by law from advocating against CCE. So you should not experience any pushback. However, I mean, realistically, they won't like it, but they have to say, you saw that map of all these programs up and down the state. There are hundreds of jurisdictions that now belong to a CCE program. So they can't be all that surprised. I mean, it's going to be 80% of cities in California, or 80% of California's electric load, is what I've heard, will be served by a CCE by 2030. So it's just what's happening, and they got to get used to it.
What's the status of the hydrogen gas that was promoted for UCI residents? And who was pushing it?
Great question. Yes. So the question was, what is the status of the hydrogen testing project, the pilot proposed for UC Irvine, and who was pushing it? So that was a program promoted by SoCal Gas. And the reason they're promoting that, and just what it is really quickly, is they are asking the California Public Utilities Commission for $14 million to run a test at UC Irvine. They were asking to do it in freshman housing and dining facilities on campus in an area that's home to like 2,500 students. And they're saying they need to do it to demonstrate how hydrogen can be blended with methane. Methane is an incredibly potent greenhouse gas that the UN and climate scientists saying it has to be reduced by a third by 2030 in order to meet our climate goals. So the problem with hydrogen is that, one of the many problems is that, they're proposing to blend it with methane, which is just a non-starter. They're proposing to blend 5% hydrogen into 95% methane and have us pretend that they're doing something worthwhile. All the way up to at the top end, at the end of the pilot, they'll be blending 20% hydrogen into 80% methane. So yeah, so the thing is, investor-owned utilities get compensated not for selling gas or gas companies. They get compensated by the CPUC more for infrastructure maintenance, for like building out the pipes. And because hydrogen is, if you're familiar with the periodic table, is the lightest atom on the periodic table. It's incredibly leaky and corrosive also, actually. And so it would require the gas industry to completely rebuild all of the gas piping in the state, which would make them a ton of money. So money, that's why they're doing it. Yeah. And so it's really appalling, unfortunately. And yeah, and it's a very energy hungry process, creating hydrogen, much more energy intensive than just using the electricity to power an electric device. So that's kind of the.
Is it getting squelched?
So CPUC asked all of the gas companies who are making these applications. There's one at San Diego, UCSD, and there's one up in Northern California. Asked them all to redo their applications. And so I was just on a stakeholder call last week, and they said they're redoing the applications and they intend to resubmit in January. And so, yeah, they modified the pilot proposal, but
it's dangerous.
It's incredibly dangerous. It's hugely explosive. Hydrogen, they say they want to store it. They say they want to do it for energy storage, but doing that requires them to create ammonium nitrate, which, if you remember a few years ago, there was this massive explosion in Beirut, which like leveled like anything. That was ammonium nitrate. And so they want to do that. There's also a huge hydrogen hub. You know, you're going to hear about all these hydrogen hubs, and it's just a lot of misinformation, basically. It's way better to just electrify, almost in almost every use case. The only places where it makes sense to use hydrogen is like fertilizer manufacturing, steel making, concrete making, very high heat industrial applications. There's a place for it in maritime shipping, perhaps in air travel, aerospace, but not for building, not for really any like ground transportation or even industrial trucking is very iffy. Certainly not for cars, not for building, period. End of story. Yeah.
I live in an unincorporated community, so how is the county doing with all of this, especially with the change in majority?
Very terrible, actually. So yeah, so you're, of course, decision-making body is the Board of Supervisors, the Board of Supervisors. And so they are nowhereville on a climate action plan. Orange County is the largest county in the state without a climate action plan. We actually keep company with like Tulare County, and as far as other counties that don't have caps, all the other large counties in the state have a climate action plan. And so let's see, how else are they doing? They actually voted to leave the OC Power Authority earlier this year, so they are exiting, which was kind of helpful because that means Don Wagner, longtime Republican, is now off the board as of July 1st, which is good. But let's see, otherwise, what else is the county's doing? A whole lot of nothing. I was just looking at this report they commissioned on aging yesterday, and it was shocking. It talks about all these vulnerabilities and protecting the elderly. They didn't say anything about extreme heat and like projected death. They just pretend it's not happening. They're not doing anything on climate. Would welcome you to come. You should, yes, if you want to go to Board of Supervisor meetings and ask for climate action. They also have this terrible housing policy that is reducing the supply of affordable housing and making it impossible for affordable housing developers to put energy efficient appliances in buildings. Yeah. So Katrina Foley, great. She's been great. And then we have Sarmiento, who's been great. But Doug Chafee, you know, we know what happened, like what was the last week, the week before, in terms of the pride flag. He's been voting in lockstep with the Republicans. I do have a meeting with his staff on Friday to let you know what his staffer said. But
I would go to their meetings, but they're during workout.
deliberately inaccessible, inaccessible time to have a meeting, right? Yeah, but convenient for them. So, terrible. Yes,
On the community plans, who are the financial winners and losers of those plans?
so usually, so a climate action plan will be funded by a city, and it's a one-time expense. And it will be a consultant who creates the plan. The first thing they're gonna do is create like a GHG inventory for the city, and then the city will do outreach, and the consultant will usually help facilitate outreach. The losers would be, let me think, maybe in terms of transportation, would be parking lot builders, would be well, it's like investor-owned utilities potentially. Yeah, it was just,
As far as
Yeah.
providers of electricity, what Southern California Edison, for example, is single point of contact and purchases all the electricity. And that's just changing to a community program to buy it directly and bypass Southern California Edison. Are they a loser in it or how?
so procurement is supposed to be a pass-through expense for them. They're not, the mechanisms around how investor-owned utilities make money change. So they're supposed to be neutral on this. Again, that's why they're prohibited from engaging in local proceedings on it. But we know that they have done whatever they can, like pricing wise, because it brings competition to the market, right? So for the first time, there's gonna be another game in town. So, so are they losing? Kind of, it's an erosion of their power a bit. They just have less revenue. Yeah, well, I will say the money that currently goes, the procurement that excess revenue, investor-owned utilities use it to fund shareholder dividends and their CEO bonuses. And SoCal Edison has provided a dividend to their shareholders every quarter for the last century, more than a century, unless it was a stock split quarter. So always up, 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 up. And so they depend on this revenue to do that. And so, but under a CCE, that money has to go back to the community by law. It has to go into community energy programs. It's going to be tens of millions of dollars that is going to fund the batteries that we're going to need for microgrids to provide resiliency and to provide like rebates for people to get heat pumps that they need and all these things that we're going to need. So that's the winners and losers on the energy side.
Yeah, Walt, you may remember, we have a member who was in the Sierra Club, who was very enthusiastic about community choice energy. And then all of the political stuff started happening and we all went, whoa, we're not gonna bring that up. So it might be time now to start thinking about it again. So if there's members who are interested in that, that could become like another kind of focus group. We'd be happy to help support that, but it's just how many battles can you fight at one time? We certainly not can identify lots of battles.
At one time, the investor-owned utilities like SCE owned the plants that produced the energy. That was broken apart 20 years ago, 25 years ago, something like that. And there were a new set of companies that owned the plants that created the energy, and the investor-owned utilities delivered it and sold it to us. Is that still the way things work? Who owns the production plants that produce the energy? Yeah.
What it's called. And yeah, it is separate by law, as you know, and that was out of the energy crisis of 2000. And so, yeah, that is a separate thing. So SoCal Edison does not own the solar fields. They don't own the gas peaker plants. They don't own the nuclear facilities anymore. Those are independent. And then a CCE or an IOU or these other energy providers that are very fringy can buy the energy from them. And it all flows like water into a bathtub. The electrons are indistinguishable from each other once they're on the grid. but, you know, and then sold by various methods.
And at one time, CalISO was the organization that acted like a broker and put the energy or allowed the energy to be put on the grid and delivered it. Is that still the case?
They still do manage the efficiency of the grid, for sure. Yeah, they're still very much a player.
Well, wow, life is complicated, huh? Okay. We have this room for another bit, if you want to stick around and chat. I would really appreciate it if, you would take home the agenda so you can sign up for the Feingold event using your QR code. Take home the flyers, and, if there's anything left on the table, would you put them on the counter over there so I can gather them up at the end of the meeting? And we hope to see you at the next meeting. Is there anybody else who has any other announcements?
Back, otherwise take it home and finish it, extend it in.
Yeah.
Go directly. Yeah, give it to it directly.
Oh, yes, the results of the election. Thank you. Okay, in both districts 71 and 72, all the people on the ballot were elected. Yay.